What's up, guys? Josh here, back for another video, and I'm going to say first and up front that I had no intention of making this video. At the start of the year, I did say that I was planning on making more videos for the channel to go along with the podcast and some of the other content we kind of make here. This video was not really one of the ones that I had in mind, honestly, but I feel like I had to make this video considering recent comments that have been made, a lot of recent moves that have been made by the PFL, and more specifically PFL founder Donn Davis. If you've been following the channel for a minute, you know that I was somebody that heading into last year, I had a lot of optimism for the PFL. You can roll back to 2023, they made a lot of big moves. Signing Francis Ngannou, signing Jake Paul, buying out Bellator, who, you know, whether or not you like Bellator or not, they were still an MMA company that had been around longer than Pride. I mean, they've multiple iterations. They're somehow able to survive, went from Bjorn Rebney to Scott Coker to so on and so forth. And they signed a deal with HBO Max. You know, they got $100 million from the Saudis. And all this came at a time where the UFC is not bad. The UFC product's not bad right now, but it is kind of stale. I mean, if you're a longtime fan of the sport, you get what I mean by this, okay? You're going to get 2 Apex fight nights a month, 1 normal fight night, 1 pay-per-view. And that's fine, you know, and the pay-per-view quality, you can argue whether or not it's gone down or gone up. We know the Apex fight nights are just kind of at this point. And with that being the case, there is a clear market for somebody to capitalize there. Other MMA companies out there, for the most part, are kind of in a weird spot. When a championship doesn't seem to have the money, and it's kind of clear they're looking more to Muay Thai and kickboxing, stuff like that, submission grappling. You know, companies like Invicta just have struggled to put on events. There's just not as much money on the regional scene as there used to be. The only other company that could have challenged the UFC in terms of maybe not beating out their viewership, because that was never going to happen, but just gaining attention, putting on big fights, was the PFL. Like I said, they had all those things going for them in 2023, so many big moves. And leading into 2024, it's like, okay, how are you going to capitalize? You know, they said they were going to have something like 20 events for the PFL, 30 events for the PFL, and then 10 for sure for Bellator. In the end, that turned into 5 Bellator events, 2 pay-per-views for the PFL, both of which seemingly flopped. And now we're in a position where everybody is cooled off, and basically half the roster wants to be released. How did we get here? How did we get here? Well, it's thanks to the worst promoter in MMA, Donn Davis. Look, this is a guy who has admitted he does not like MMA. And for all my issues with Dana White, and there's many issues, the guy likes the sport. The guy likes fighting. He lives, breathes fighting. And I respect that about him. Donn Davis has been upfront that he does not like fighting. He does not care about fighting. Fighting is a way for him to earn money as an executive in the business world. And that's reflected by interviews, such as the one with MMA Fighting late last year, where they asked him, hey, Donn, what's your favorite MMA fight of all time? A right down the plate, 50-mile-an-hour softball, okay? You could name anything. Let's keep in mind, this came right after Francis Ngannou returned to fight in MMA for the first time in 2 years, after Chris Cyborg and Lizard Pacheco put on a banger just weeks before this. Here is his answer.
So, people who are doctors don't watch medical shows. People who are lawyers don't watch legal shows on TV. I'm aware of everything that's going on because it's important for business. But I don't want to watch other people's MMA shows for enjoyment. You know, I'm aware of everything that's going on from a business standpoint, but I would never sit there and say, that's my relaxation away from work.
No answer for Donn Davis. Can't even name anything because he doesn't care about the sport, and quite frankly, it's clearly he doesn't care about the fighters either. You take a look and see over the last few weeks, basically, I don't want to say every high-profile PFL fighter, but seemingly the vast majority of them: Patricio Pitbull, Patchy Mix, Corey Anderson, several Bellator champions coming out and saying, hey, these guys aren't letting me fight. And I know that Donn Davis came out with this big statement saying that, oh, you know, one of the things that's making us look bad right now is Bellator fighters complaining. And it's like, well, why do you think they're complaining, man? You said you were going to run 10 events, ran 5, and then said that, oh, we were put in a bad position by the PFL. There's no way we could have held more events, even though that's what you said you were going to do. People are mad you're not holding up to your word, man. It's that simple. Himself in the shoes of 37-year-old Patricio Pitbull. He's been fighting for well over a decade now, a long-time Bellator champion. You helped build this company from the ground up to being the second biggest MMA company on the planet. They get bought out by the PFL. You get one fight a year. The company is basically dead now. And not only that, they won't let you go. Despite the fact that you're 37, your clock is ticking when it comes to your time in the sport. He won't let you go, right? There were guys like Gegard Mousasi in a similar position who had to threaten to sue and then literally sue the PFL to get out of the contract when they weren't even letting him fight to begin with. I'll say this, Davis and the PFL, they barely respond to fighter complaints these days. But sometimes they do have targeted responses, such as at your boys, at your boy, man, at your guy here. I reported, I'll say it, not I reported. I wrote up a story last week about how Aaron Pico, longtime Bellator featherweight, is apparently a free agent starting in 2025. That came from an interview, I believe, with MMA Fighting or MMA Junkie. I apologize if I'm getting it wrong, but I'll link it here. Essentially stating that, hey, Aaron Pico is just to fight Patricio Pitbull at a Bellator Rising show. They've held shows in the past. Deal didn't end up coming together. And now in 2025, he's a free agent. So after months of essentially just ignoring fighter complaints and not responding whatsoever, don't worry though. Don't worry, guys. Donn Davis, he is watching. Don't worry, he's watching. Because he found my story and said that it was disinformation. And hopefully that stops in 2025. And that Aaron Pico didn't actually say that he wasn't a free agent, but he said that they offered him a new deal in a title fight. Well, Don, in my opinion, what I think should stop in 2025 is you being a fucking MMA promoter. If you have guys who, first of all, you can't remember their names, you don't know what they do, why are you involved in this business? If you can't name a single fight that you've ever seen when somebody asks you what your favorite MMA fight is, why are you involved in this business? Your targeted responses. You're ignoring veterans of the game such as Patricio Pitbull publicly, but whenever something comes out about a guy like Aaron Pico, you're like, oh, I gotta respond immediately and call it disinformation. What are you talking about, man? I mean, honestly, these are real fighters on the line. These are real lives on the line, man. These are people who, they're not in the UFC. They're not making millions of dollars per fight. These guys have to make money through fighting, and you're sitting on the sideline for no reason. You know? And that's not even getting into the little complaints that I have. Like, earlier this week, they put out a big press release. You know, oh, the PFL's going to have elbows now. Like, oh, man. Oh, congratulations. You're back where we all were back in 1993. Good. Awesome, dude. You're killing it, Don. You're killing it, dude. Point now where, like, any sort of momentum that the PFL had going into 2025, going into 2024, I mean, completely erased. You know, all the things I mentioned. We can just run them down. Bellator PFL deal. Bellator, half the roster wants to leave, if that. It's probably more. The HBO Max deal's done. Go ahead and go on HBO. You're not going to see anything there. Apparently that was a one-year deal. I couldn't get anything more. Bellator brand as a whole is dead. What else? Francis Ngannou signed a deal. Oh, actually it was only a 2-fight deal, and he's already looking for the door, and he wants another boxing match. Okay. Jake Paul, he's never going to fight for your company, Don. I'm just going to say it. He has no interest, and quite frankly, neither do I, and neither do most people. I think if you were able to actually get him in the cage, it would make a lot of money, but it's not going to happen. You don't have as much to offer. I mean, the guy just made $40 million fighting Mike Tyson. He's never going to step into the cage, okay? What else? $100 million from the Saudis. That's one of those things that's like, oh, damn, $100 million from the Saudis? Dude, how do you fuck that up? Well, I mean, I don't know where the money's going because they're not holding many events, so I hope Donn Davis had a nice Christmas, I guess. I don't know. This is the biggest crime of this all. You have some rising stars in the PFL, such as Cedric Doumbé. Cedric Doumbé, if people remember, going into 2024, dude was red hot. Former kickboxer, did sign with the UFC, but ended up getting let go because he couldn't fight for him. Signs with the PFL and has one of the most electric professional debuts ever in MMA history, with soccer stars watching on, with like a France crowd on his side. Scored a knockout win in his debut, and only fought twice in 2024. My question is, as a fight promoter, if you're trying to build a guy in momentum, why would you not A, have a guy like Cedric Doumbé fight more, and B, why would you give him a guy like Baki in his second fight? Also, Baki, in case you're curious, re-signed with the PFL, has not fought since. Add him to the long list of guys who has not fought recently. I don't know what to say anymore about this. I've been watching MMA for well over a decade. I started watching 2011. It's now 2025. Okay, I've had MMA in my life longer than I've not had it in my life. And with that in mind, I've seen a lot of fight promoters come and go. And it's impossible for me to see 5 years down the line the PFL is not in that dead company, with the likes of ELYXR and Strikeforce and WEC and IFL and so on and so forth. And I hope that doesn't happen. But it's impossible for me to see them having any success with a guy like Donn Davis at the head of the table. That's all I'm going to say. That's it for me. Hope you guys like this video. I'm at Josh Soundoff on Twitter, at Courtside Soundoff for all things relating to the channel. Feel free to go ahead and follow our sponsors down below. If you want to go ahead and go to rogueenergy.com, get 10% off, code Soundoff at checkout. Helps you out. For me, I use it at the gym. Also, if you're an MMA fan, we got some events coming up over the next few weeks. Follow that link down below to BetMGM. You can get up to $1,500 in bonus bets paid back if you do not hit. But yeah, that's all I got for me. Hope you guys enjoy this video. And as always, new podcast Friday. See you later.